Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. GOTREK and UNGRIM going to be taking the Dwarves against the Skaven. This is Glorious Feeder once again, going into a potentially very tough matchup. Unfortunately, Felix has been swapped out for the Rune Lord. This time there was too much grumbling from the Throng about bringing the Manling along, so they decided to leave him back at the Karak. And here the Throng is. We've got two cannons, we've got Goblobber, a couple of Longbeards in the back, we've got Rangers, Ulthar's Raiders, a second line of Miners with Blasting Charges, and some Dwarf Warriors. For the Skaven, we've got some Skaven Slave Slingers up front, immediately going to be taking some fire, and a very nice Vanguard Ranger there. Natty Bubo Sharpshooter is going to be immediately picking at those Rangers. We've got Clan Vulcan's Tail Slashers, Clan Rats with shields here, Rattling Guns, very nice, some more Clan Rats, so just tons and tons of Clan Rats, and 3 Doom Flayers with Mr. Doomwheel himself leading the way, IKKIT'S, cackling, crackling, ready to go. Very good pick in this matchup. And if you notice where the arrows are pointing here, there's a reason I have these turned on. You can see that Glorious Feeder is actually ground targeting. So of course, Natty Bubo Sharpshooters with their stock are not able to be spotted, so you kind of have to guess if you can see where their bullets are coming from. And this is one of the dangers that sometimes you don't necessarily guess accurately, but that's okay. It's the thought that counts, right? And meanwhile, the Slave Slingers that are coming forward are just getting absolutely gatted by Rangers. Granted, these Rangers over on this side are taking quite a bit from those Natty Bubos, but at the same time, that's a lot of Natty Bubo Sharpshooter fire that's not going after, for example, UNGRIM or GOTREK, or even the Runesmith to a degree would be a valuable target for them to shoot at, but instead they're shooting at a relatively cheap skirmish unit, which, you know, is tough, but it's not the end of the world. The Slave Slingers will be able to do some work against GOTREK. He doesn't have a missile block chance or any armor to speak of, so it does have a little bit of missile resistance, as all characters do, but that's really it in terms of mitigation against any kind of missile fire, so you definitely don't want him taking those sling stones. Although they won't hit very many, they will still hit, and that's just very cost inefficient. So, yeah. Meanwhile, you can see Natty Bubos have been properly spotted now as the artillery is targeting them directly, and they are going to take an absolute shelling here. The poor goblins that just didn't even ask to be involved in this are being thrown at them, along with some cannon shot and everything. So yeah, they're going to be taking some serious heat here, and of course that leadership damage would normally be very effective. Thankfully, the Regiment of Renown status there does give them quite a bit of extra leadership, but obviously Clan Rats aren't going to do too well against these Dwarven infantry. Dwarf Warriors will outclass them pretty much in every way, but of course the damage from the Flayers will be the key here. So the Dwarves really have to use GOTREK and UNGRIM quite well in attacking and destroying these Flayers. So let's take a look here. Looks like GOTREK's going over to this side, and we've got UNGRIM here catching these Flayers before they actually get a charge and preventing them from getting a charge into those Rangers. And this is a nasty situation. Granted, IKKIT'S going to get in here, absolutely zaps some people, and yeah, UNGRIM's going to get knocked around a little bit there by those Flayers, so that's a bit rough. But meanwhile, over here, you can see the blasting charges and the Dwarf Warriors able to rout off some of those Clan Rats, and then here comes GOTREK. Man, he's just about as tall as the Flayers here, able to get some decisive hits in. Does get staggered around a little bit, but any hits that he does get will be absolutely devastating. And like that little double attack there, I believe it actually does a double attack, I want to say. And you can see that Flayer already taking quite a bit of damage. The other Flayer as well. Once UNGRIM stands up and starts to get some attacks in, he will be able to start to whittle them down, you know, piece by piece, start to just, you know, grab the various parts and tear them off barehanded. At least, you know, that's how I picture him doing it. Blows one up there, so already down a model. That is quite a bit of stopping power gone. Granted, there is still this Flayer, the Dwarf Thing Menace, that has the armor sundering, the Regiment of Renown Flayer, that is still on the field and basically untouched. Also, IKKIT'S gotten back here and gotten into the artillery, shut them down. Thankfully, they were able to mostly deal with the Natty Bubos. They have come back from route way, way over there, but they've got very few models and very little ammunition left, so they probably won't be much of a danger. You can see also that the Dwarf Infantry able to push this side of the flank here, where the Flayers kind of overextended to go after the artillery. That leaves the Clan Rats very exposed here, and obviously they are just going to get torn apart by Dwarf Warriors, so no surprises there. But meanwhile, here GOTREK is still... Oh man, a little bit of friendly fire from those blasting charges actually knocks GOTREK off his feet. That's definitely a grudging right there. But There must be some particularly conservative dwarfs that aren't happy about his friendship with the manling, let's just say that. But he is going to still, nonetheless, route off with a sweet little roll attack there. Is able to route off those Doom Flares. So things are looking pretty good for the dwarves. Balance power slightly in the Skaven's favor at this point as a Warp Lightning comes down. But here comes UNGRIM matched up on IKKIT, Lord versus Lord. And he is going to get in here and start to smash on this Doom Wheel. So Doom Wheel's doing its best to kind of zap everyone around it, and obviously the Brass Orb will help kind of stagger a lot of these infantry and keep them from getting good attacks here. Miners won't do a whole lot, but they do have a bit of AP to kind of chip in on this fight a little bit here. But yeah, you can see GOTREK starting to move back as this backline engagement's gotten really spread out here with these clan rats trying to chase off Goblobber crews, dwarfs following up relatively slowly, and this Flayer here getting attacked by the Runesmith, who does have some mass. He can definitely get in here, and while he doesn't have the stopping power of GOTREK or UNGRIM, he can definitely do some work. Absolutely. So yeah, if we go ahead and check back in, we've got Dwarf Warriors here, GOTREK supporting them. Again, he is going to be able to just do a ton of damage against these Flayers, and I really, really like the pick of UNGRIM and GOTREK here, because Flayers and Doom Wheels are such a big problem, and I mean, eventually they're going to have to fight them, right? So, like, as long as you can do enough damage in other phases of the battle, I think UNGRIM and GOTREK could probably just tank this whole thing out. If you took Felix for the healing, that would be even more true, I would say. But, I mean, obviously having the Runesmith for the slow is also a really nice nice option. So it's tough to say which is really more competitive. Personally, I'd probably take Felix just to have him run with... I'd probably have him actually run with UNGRIM and just make sure that from a Lord standpoint that I don't take too much damage. But you can see a lot of the Dwarf units being kind of pushed away here. But IKKIT has taken so much damage from UNGRIM that it's just about the end of days for him. And that means that, in general, the Skaven are, of course, going to start to suffer some leadership issues. You can see they do have a few ranged units still here back online, able to kind of pick off some of these isolated dwarves, but granted, they're being screened out by all of these other units here, right? So, GOTREK again mixed in with the Flayers. Dwarf Thing Menace this time, the Regiment of Renown, can't stand up to the might of GOTREK as he just absolutely clubs these guys. Oh man, that beautiful blue explosion. That's what we like to see. And yeah, definitely the mass buff to dwarf characters helps a lot, especially in situations like this where they have to support against a big, you know, massive target like IKKIT or like the Flayers or what have you. Speaking of IKKIT, routing away the Goblobber crew here, and he himself, let's check in, yeah, less than 500 HP left, so balance power pretty clearly in the dwarves' favor, despite the fact that the Skaven have a lot more numbers on the field. And it's largely due to the fact that GOTREK and UNGRIM are both quite healthy. I mean, GOTREK's getting pretty low. He's down below 1,000 HP, but they have mostly dealt with the high-value targets that they needed to. There's just a couple of Doom Flayers, IKKIT himself, but I guess the other Doom Flayers were literally just clubbed to pieces by these two. So yeah, that's pretty good stuff, honestly. Some Gyros might have been nice here. Gyros can be a bit of a risky pick up against Jezzail's, but I mean, with the artillery advantage that he had here, I think that he could have just did what he did, you know, shell them, try and keep the Gyros out of range until that happens, and then bring the Gyros in. You know, the steam guns obviously are quite good. I am a huge fan of the Gyro Bomber actually in this matchup, because it does a ton of damage to these chariot type units, especially to like IKKIT or other Doom Wheels like big single model chariots. If it hits on all of its little machine gun shots, they do a ton of damage. So can be a risky pick though. It's relatively expensive and very, very vulnerable to Jezzail fire, absolutely. But as IKKIT tries to pick off these units, you know, in the periphery, GOTREK and UNGRIM are, you know, they're tired of fighting the big boys. They want to just come cleave through just hordes of rats now. So they're going to come side by side here and start to do just that, support shoulder to shoulder with these Longbeards here. And oh man, how cool of a cinematic shot is that? We'll go ahead for a quick zoom here as these two start to do their work. Oh man. That is what we like to see for the Dawi, right? Oh man, so cool. I'm so happy about GOTREK, man. He honestly is a really nice addition to the Dwarves. I had thought, you know, he's really going to be nice for Bretonnia, and he definitely is. But definitely for the Dwarves, he's he's basically like another UNGRIM. And the fact that UNGRIM got even better and cheaper in the last patch as well, just means that together they're gonna be an absolute menace to deal with, especially in a late game situation like this. If you don't have a good, you know, a really good kind of snipe system, and like in this battle, for example, where the Jezzails ended up using a lot of their ammunition on the Rangers early on in the battle, rather than sniping out these characters, ended up being a pretty decisive factor here. You can see IKKIT'S gonna try and get his zap, and didn't do a whole lot, mostly just did friendly fire to those clan rats, and is going to lead to them wanting to rout more. So that probably did more harm than good, IKKIT, but a very Skaven thing to do nonetheless. There are still these Ratling Gunners, which have some ammunition, but they just don't really have enough in the tank to take down these Dwarf characters. And, I mean, GOTREK especially, I don't think he has his melee defense. I think he's probably no abilities. No, but he does have his heal, which I don't think is procced yet, so potentially he could still get that, and yeah, they're just going to rip apart those Flayers if they get close. So it's a very nice Dwarf build, and a potentially very nice addition in this matchup. Again, the mass buffs, GOTREK, and just various changes in the last patch. I really think that the Dwarfs are going to be a top-tier faction now. Oh man, beautiful. That Dwarf Thing Menace just getting clubbed, axed, whatever verb you want to use. We're going to see one last brass orb from IKKIT as he vengefully tries to take back control of this battle from the Slayers, but they are resilient and unbreakable, so eventually he is going to have to come in and fight. And Warp Lightning on top of the brass orb there is actually quite a nice play. It does sort of concentrate them all into a tight blob so you can hit them, but yeah. Some nice friendly fire from the Skaven. Definitely going to be picking off a few of those clan rats as well as doing damage to the characters here, but that's getting close to the end here. Definitely hanging on quite long for the Skaven, and that's the thing, is they still have just so many numbers on the field, and the fact that it's mostly just these 3 heroes left is sort of why I was advocating for maybe taking Felix in this situation, because then, of course, he has that little AoE regen effect, which, I mean, it's not a huge amount of regen, but over the course of a very long battle like this, I mean, especially if you're going 10 minutes plus, just grinding it out with these Dwarf heroes, definitely can be quite useful to have in a late game situation, but I'm tempted to fast forward, but, I mean, these guys are just, these 3 Dwarf heroes just going all out D&D style. It's too badass to really fast forward through, so we're just going to keep it right here and watch as UNGRIM and GOTREK and the Runesmith here just wreck through what's left. And even these Ratling Gun teams, you can see the Jezzails being thrown into melee at this point desperately. IKKIT comes in and then decides, you know, with that Rune of Wrath and Ruin debuffing my speed, I'm probably going to get caught here, and maybe we should just get out of here while I'm still alive. And a very Pyrrhic victory for the Dwarves, but GOTREK, UNGRIM, and the Runesmith getting it done at the end of the day. Comment down below, guys. We got to name this Runesmith, because that was definitely an epic victory there, and he is deserving of a name. So y'all throw me some good dwarf names down in the comments, and I'll pin one that I feel like is the most deserving. Anyway, for the rest of the build here, I mean, tons of kills on the Dwarf Warriors to be expected against these high numbers. The Rangers ended up getting counterfired pretty hard, besides this one unit, but at the same time, again, that used up a lot of the ammunition of these other units, rather than going after the important characters here, which ended up being very critical in that late game. Obviously, IKKIT Claws, definitely a big danger here, 115 kills, and even with these two, still was able to do some heavy lifting. Same thing with these Flayers, the Dwarf Thing Menace at least 70 kills, and Natty Bubo's 74 kills is good numbers, but that almost goes to show that they were used incorrectly, in my opinion, if you have like a high kill total on them, because they're really meant to go like character sniping. The Ratling Guns are where you really want the numbers, and they definitely did some pretty decent lifting. 75 kills, 68 kills on the Tail Slashers as well. They match up quite well against Miners, as long as they don't get blasted by the blasting charges, although I want to say they have some fire resistance, in which case they would be a little bit more resistant to the blasting charges. But anyway, very fun battle from Glorious Feeder. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know I sure did. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.